When I made my latest video, Writing the Zeitgeist Lo-Fi Hip-Hop, one of the responses that I was expecting to get was some criticism from the community surrounding lo-fi hip-hop. I figured there were probably going to be some producers or big-time fans who were going to be upset by the relatively incomplete information of my video, given that I am not a lo-fi hip-hop producer, nor am I like deep in a community for it or anything like that. And I had already seen some of that response on Frank Javc's video about the subject, his How to Lo-Fi Hip-Hop, which was kind of a glibly making fun of the genre video, especially because he had already made a video on how to make Nujabes and J Dilla beats. And frankly, as much as I do appreciate lo-fi hip-hop and enjoyed, making a video that was mostly complimentary about it, I do think most of the genre is not that good. Most of it's very forgettable and very, just low-tier music production. But that's the issue, is that for the people who are deep into it, it's kind of a different animal. And what I'm making my video about is not really lo-fi hip-hop in the sense that those people are thinking of it, like something you're deep into, this community of, music producers who care deeply about this subject. I'm talking about the pop culture phenomenon of lo-fi hip-hop, this bigger, broader idea of these people who aren't a part of the community, but are latching onto the name, that are creating stuff in this genre that has kind of escaped the hands of the people who actually care about it. And I think we see this happen with pretty much any genre if it crosses over into the mainstream. If it becomes something that lots of people care about, then inevitably it's going to bring in a crowd who just doesn't know about your deeper scene. When I was an anime forumite back in the day, I spent a lot of times on different forums where there were people who just have this very set idea of what anime and its culture is. This is the kind of people who watch the shows. These are the kind of shows that we talk about and care about, and we promote it in a certain way. But when an anime show, let's say, has a massive amount of success and none of the people who watch that show come to your little community, they form a whole other community, then it becomes that anime, because both your thing and their thing are both called anime, is now it now encompasses more than one thing. And I think that's kind of what's happened here with lo-fi hip-hop, is that yes, there's this community that's probably been into it for a long time, that cares deeply about it, that knows that there's so much more that can go into it. And granted, in my video, I kind of suggest that Nujabes and J Dilla beats didn't take a ton of effort to make because they're made in this style. And, it's not that I was trying to say that those two don't put a ton of effort in, just that it doesn't take a ton of effort to try to emulate their style. I know that Nujabes and J Dilla are, there's a lot more going on with them. There's a reason those two remain beloved and successful, and they haven't just been superseded by all these people making whatever. These new lo-fi hip-hop songs aren't, becoming... none of these artists are becoming a big deal off of lo-fi hip-hop radio. The point of it is that it's a thing you just listen to all day and don't pay attention to, because none of these songs are really that attention-grabbing. Most of them are just kind of generic and easily slapped together. But that's because this is a different thing that's happening. This is people jumping on a bandwagon, finding this thing easy, and then making a ton of it. And because they're doing it that way, those people are going to drown out the people who are actually doing great music, because great music takes time. Putting in real effort takes time. You're never going to have as many products of something good as you are of the cheap knockoff, which can be cranked out, as fast as possible. And if the people aren't demanding that it's amazing, if they're just demanding the baseline whatever, then you're going to get way more of that. I mean, this is the entire reason that there's so much shitty anime out there, to continue to use anime as an example. The reason we get an Eromanga Sensei is that people aren't demanding that every anime be great. They're just demanding that it be something that they can throw on and sit through, because they, don't value their time and just want something to literally waste their time. They're looking for that time to be wasted because they don't have enough going on in their lives. They need something to fill that time. and they're not willing to put in the effort to curate the things that take up their time, because that in itself takes time. It takes time to go out there and find out what stuff's good and bad, and sometimes you just, the bag of chips is right here on the edge of the couch, so that's what I'm going to eat. I'm not going to go in there and make myself a meal. I'm just going to eat the chips that are sitting here right on the couch because they're convenient, you know? That's why this stuff takes off, why nobody's going to go to hip-hop radio and listen to it all day and then go, let me go seek out the actually good lo-fi hip-hop producers, and let me go get in on the Reddit community and stuff like that, which is, incidentally, you know, I did find the people who had that response to my video, which were in the lo-fi hip-hop subreddit. Like, someone linked the video there, and most of the discussion was like, oh, you know, the points he makes are okay, but he doesn't really get into the history, he doesn't really talk about this or that, because, yeah, I think it's a different community. I think that those people who care deeply about lo-fi hip-hop are not representative of what's happening to the genre. And I understand why it would be frustrating to listen to someone talk about, like, the shittier version of a thing you talk about, or that you care about, like, to promote this, you know, these radio stations that are just putting in all this, like, low-tier garbage music. I get why that would be frustrating, but that is what the zeitgeist is the radio stations that you just leave on and you don't pay attention to and you don't care about in a deep way. So, you know, if you wanted a video about the more niche community, you'd have to have somebody within that community willing to talk about the history and stuff like that. And I think that part of this frustration that comes from, like, when we see these kinds of, like, videos like mine, as a member of that community, is that, like, on some level, you always want to bring more people into the fold, because liking things that are super niche, that you feel very passionate about, that no one else seems to care about, is a lonely experience. It's lonely to have a thing that you can't talk to that many people about, that, like, no one understands, that they get annoyed if you keep bringing it up, you know? So you want there to be more fans of your thing, but having more fans of your thing is exactly what's going to cause this. It's exactly what's going to cause the watering down of it. It's what's going to cause people to misunderstand it, because you're going to get people latching onto your craze who don't get it as deeply as you do and are going to pervert the message, or they're going to change what you got out of it. They're going to make it something different. You know, if you, like, let's say you're trying to create new anime fans, and then whoops, they like the wrong shows, you know, they don't like the ones you do, and then they slowly drag the community's discussion in another direction, and it leaves you behind, and suddenly it's not what you wanted it to be, you know? And I think, I get it, because of that loneliness, that sense of, like, let me bring everyone to the things I like. And I mean, this is what I do, you know, like, that's basically what my career has always been, is that, like, I like to drag people over to the things I like in the hope that more of it will get made. But more of it getting made doesn't mean that everyone who takes influence from the things that I like is going to do it well. You know, not everyone you introduce to lo-fi hip-hop is going to take the right influence from it. They might take the easy route. They might see it as, oh, wow, this is something I can just crank out in FL Studio. I'm so glad, you know, I get to be a part of something, because that's what they want. They want to join a thing. They want to join a club. They want to feel like they're part of that niche community, when they're really just trying to, you know, find a way into a community as quickly as possible without really putting in the effort and passion that those who are already in the community might have. So, you know, it's kind of a two-way, it's a double-edged sword when you bring more people into your niche, because you're likely going to start polluting the niche. And this is why people hate when stuff goes mainstream. You know, like, this is why there's people, it's hard for a lot of people to understand, because you say, like, how can you be mad at someone for going mainstream? Because, you know, you should want them to be successful, or you should want more people to care about the thing you like. But sometimes that's not helpful for you. You know, sometimes you were in that tight little group because everyone in there had an understanding, and there was, you know, there was a closeness and, like, a depth to your closeness, that when other people start coming in who half get it, then you feel like your group is being diluted. That's the word I'm looking for. You feel like your group's being diluted with all these filthy normies coming in. So yeah, it's kind of a double-edged sword, and I'm definitely like coming into lo-fi hip hop with this perspective of like this. I'm telling you, like, if you're a part of that craze, this video is your signal that your thing has been taken away from you, that it's escaped you. Because the fact that someone's even making it, someone who's not a part of the community is making a video about it, trying to explain it, that's already the signal that like, oh, my version of lo-fi hip hop, that's not the thing that's getting big, like, oh, this is escaping me, and I do think there's some stuff that is niche, that manages to have that manages to go mainstream without being like fundamentally tainted by going mainstream, but it's rare. I mean, if you have a community around it, you're always going to see, like, if you go into that community and you feel like you understand the thing and then you talk to other people who are fans of it, you'll quickly realize, oh, they understand it in a totally different way that doesn't relate to me at all, and the bigger your group of people who appreciates the thing is, the more divergent the understanding is going to be. And it's cool when a work can inspire so many people to think in so many different ways. And you could even have multiple communities surrounding it. Like, let's say that there's a really big show that comes out and you got one forum that feels this way and one forum that feels that way, and they become their own little communities, and each one can have its own fun time. But it's when you try to combine those two that everyone just feels like, wow, not, I thought that I was going to find something very personal with this show, but it turns out that people feel 1,000 different ways, and I don't actually connect with other fans in the slightest. And you find yourself drifting between communities, trying to find the one that actually understands the thing the same way that you do. I'm kind of off on a tangent here, and I don't know how to get back, but I think you all get the point by now that, like, yeah, if you watch a video by someone explaining your hobby and explaining it in a totally different way from how you see it, it's probably because it's gotten away from you. It's not the same thing that you thought it was. Or it's not even that it could just be that it's a totally different thing. Like that lo-fi hip-hop as a mainstream idea, as this radio station that people casually throw on to listen to while they study, but they don't really engage with it. They don't know who any of the artists are. They're not looking, differentiating between the high and low quality stuff. They're not like really appreciating the nuances of the genre. That is just a different concept from the lo-fi hip-hop that, people who really care about it are actually engaging with. Yeah, that's all. Sick nasty farts.